Full circle.
Espree, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, podcast interview shows of some sort, which we'll now talk about. So, welcome, Espree Devora, who we will talk about who you are and what you do now. But, yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to you in a while. You're fucking awesome. For
thank you.
Reasons that defy many explanations. So, therefore, I'm going to attempt to do just that. So, Espree, I will introduce you to you, as a serial entrepreneur, super connector, and prolific podcaster, having been a host for WeAreLATech.fm, Uniting LA Startups, aka Silicon Beach, Women in Tech.fm, founder of WeAreLATech, an experience club for entrepreneurs, which is fucking awesome and about to relaunch. Was listed by Inc. magazine as top 30 women in tech, and this I stole from your LinkedIn, which I know is a partial list, so we'll get into that. That's why I have this. And then I was introduced to you in 2000. I love this story. 2013 by Shoeboxed, because you asked them for like one of their best customers, and apparently I really don't know why they picked me. Do we know?
I don't remember. I mean, this was so long ago, and now Shoebox is this huge company, but at the time they were, well, no, they had been around for a while at the time. They became even more significant. I feel like now they're more like an enterprise product.
Yeah, back in the day,
anyway,
man.
Yeah.
And then you interviewed me, and then almost a year later, I was launching the Catalyst podcast, and you were not only were you on it, but you were my first interview. And then, like, I remember I told you that after, and I was like, yeah, like, thanks for being the first interview. And you're like, cool. Like, no, I mean, like, my first interview ever. Like, not on the, like, ever. And you're like, oh my God.
I love it.
I remember your response to that quite well, and it was very encouraging, because someone who had done many interviews and someone who had literally just done their first ever, thank you for that. And then my favorite part is I moved to LA, and 6 weeks after I was here, I had noise canceling headphones on. Door is over here. I'm facing my computer. I can't hear anything. I, for whatever reason, at a certain point in time, just feel compelled to turn and look, and I'm like, she looks really familiar. And then Facebooked you, and I was like, pretty sure. And then went over and was like, "Are you Espree Devora?" And then you had the same reaction that you did when you took this call, which was like, "Yes." I'm not used to seeing people in 3D.
Yeah, all my friends are virtual on the computer.
That'd actually be. I should wear a picture of my face to an event and just be like, "This is what I normally look like with a headset."
That's actually really funny.
Speaking of which, I'll break for this.
Can you please do that, for Halloween next year, or at the end of this year? Can you wear a shirt that says "This is what I normally look like"?
Awesome. I'll get the frame with the stickies behind me.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, random sidebar. I bought this for a project, and then pretty much immediately as it arrived at my house, realized that I could use it for other things. So I got a label maker.
Nice.
And then I attached a carabiner to it, and I programmed all of my domains in as presets, and I've been carrying it to networking events as a business card, and I've just been as people are talking to me, I'm like, oh, here you go, and boop boop, there you go, and they're like, wait, what?
No, but that's the thing, is that you have to do things out of the box, think different, as Apple says.
Yeah, and it's about, I think, authentically
sometimes
expressing
out of the label box.
Well, and now that's somewhat obsolete, because and this is a different story for a different day, but I'm now the proud owner of Brian.bot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
that is a story for another day, because I'm sure that wasn't easy to acquire.
It was easy. It was just expensive.
Oh.
So cool. So what I want to do with you is I want to run through all the stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah.
And create a synopsis. So one of my favorite ones is he was just cool dude, and then he became a friend, and then a mentor, and then a partner. But John Danowski is a serial entrepreneur and venture capitalist who has led or arranged numerous private equity and debt financings, dozens of rounds of venture capital, 2 IPOs, 7 sales of secondary stock, 16 acquisitions, and the sale of multiple companies, won twice. And so like that paragraph, as soon as I mention him and someone clicks it, they're like, holy shit, like I'm going to read the rest of this from, modern day web, a large amount of text.
Right.
So you have a very complex story in a similar regard that has many, many, many layers. Back to 2003, I mean, even then you had a sizable resume of things that you had done, and you were the girl who gets shit done, which I still, actually, where did that come from? Was that self-branding, or did someone label you that?
Somebody sort of labeled me that. It was at South by Southwest. I was hanging out with Tony Hsieh, who's the CEO of Zappos, and we were on a bus with Ashton Kutcher and Ev from Twitter, and we had to get to have the bus get somewhere within 7 minutes. And so I did what I do, and somehow I found a place with security and sectioned off and had everybody escorted in, the whole entourage, to this place within 7 minutes, and had a place for the bus to pull over. And then when we got in, I'll never forget this because Tony kept encouraging me to hang out with them, as I probably should have done, but I get really protective over the people I care about, and I was really concerned about anybody taking pictures while my friends were trying to relax. And so I just started making sure that there were no photos. They weren't doing anything weird. It's just, when you have a elevated profile, everybody's always trying to bother you. And so I just wanted them to have a good time. And so everybody kept saying, who are you? Their publicist? Are you their assistant? And then somebody else just said, no, she's just the girl who gets it done. And that's kind of how it became this thing, that I was just the girl who got it done. And I look back at that day a lot. I think it was a really significant day in the sense that I made this choice to, to protect my friends instead of hang out with my friends. I always kind of think about that and about my personality, and if I would to make that same choice again. Tony must have asked me a million times to sit down and chill with them, and I was so hyperactive into protective mode, I just would not. And Kayam, I don't know if you know Kayam. Kayam, a friend, said, "Man, I could really see like how she rallies things together, and it was interesting. It was like a display of my different skill sets. But I made this choice. It was just interesting. Probably a boring story. But.
No, it's a fantastic story, and it's interesting because and I was just writing about this a minute ago, and it's been a persistent topic is making space for people, and you're fantastic at that. I wouldn't even say fantastic. I would say that like you are an example of someone who does it exceedingly well. And part of it is that we're there's some other stuff to talk about in terms of like curating events, and I found this really great quote that resonated with me about how most social gatherings today are about co-consumption. Right. And like entertainment is the consumption of fun, and play is the creation of fun. And WeAreLATech, to jump a little bit, and I've got that one a little bit done. Early on, I mean, because your first version of that was very insistent on small groups, so that you would never be in an environment where you'd have, okay, cool, the club has 200 people, and every time there's an event, there's the same 200 people there, and right. You see your friend, you go talk to your friend, you catch up, you never meet other people. The way that you formatted it is what, 4 to 20? Or what was the biggest one?
So it's pretty much 8 to 15. We've gone up to 17 and then sometimes down to 4, but 8 is really the sweet spot. I'd say it's a safe haven for the introvert's version of networking. I think it's important. I say that I like to simulate a dinner party like vibe. More business gets done, at the bar than in the boardroom, and to create an atmosphere where everybody feels comfortable to engage, to have meaningful conversations. Who are you going to think about when you're doing that business deal? You're going to think about the person you just went skydiving with over the weekend. And it's not even about the business conversation. It's about building that rapport, that trust, and feeling that vibe to say, hey, let me connect back to him or her and see if she's interested in exploring this business deal further.
Yeah. And I think back to all the ones. I think, let's see, I did beer tasting a few times. I mean, and there were a lot of them, and I just like and it was fun because you had to like compete to get into it. And the one that you snuck me in on, which I greatly appreciate, was DJ lessons.
Oh, wasn't that amazing?
That was amazing. Granted, I sucked.
I can't wait.
No rhythm whatsoever.
You know what's so crazy is that full circle is recently I was doing a lot of podcast training, and this guy, DJ Hoppa, has a podcast, and he owns that space, the DJ Scratch Academy, and I didn't even know. And so I ended up meeting the owner of the space.
That's amazing.
Podcasting, yeah.
I mean, LA is a little bit like that, but also like the web is, I think you put out that beacon, you share that resonance, and then like just people start to come in. And Ali Spagnola, who was pretty much the first episode on, I mean, she was the first episode on the live stream. She was the first episode in my podcast studio, which this is sitting next to me.
That's awesome.
Although I just found placemats, so the placemats aren't in the current picture. So.
How fantastic! And we share the same chairs. I love those chairs.
Check out my rug.
No,
it matches the chairs.
No, this is great. I can't wait to see your place. That's fantastic.
And that's they don't make these anymore. Wait, so we're chair sibling? That's amazing.
Yeah, I just have black legs and you have white legs.
That's pretty fantastic. I think I need to add that into your and then so she was the first one there, and then when she was in the studio, she's like, we're talking about being an artist, and she's like, art is art if you say it's art, and then she led to me creating my first art, and that was all because of you.
Aww.
Yeah, you are ever present. And it's funny because you do it effortlessly in the sense that when you make a connection, I've known Ali for years, and you sent it as like an offhanded like, hey, she got her content stolen, and made this really great video, and I know that you resonate with this. And then I was like, oh my God, that's exactly, yeah. So just all the love.
I find a lot of joy in creating mutually beneficial relationships for others, for sure.
And you definitely don't try to do it. I didn't find this page, so I will parse this later, because actually Ali has a similar one that's just like, she showed me her bio, and I was like, it's a hidden page, and it's a rabbit hole. As expected. I'm actually updating on my website, so I think it's funny that we're looking at them. I'm like, yep, and that will change, and that will change, and that will change. Okay, well then so serial entrepreneur, super connector, and prolific podcaster, I usually try and go for 3 hashtags that I have. I mean, if you click on entrepreneur, these are all my entrepreneurs. I've got Tony Shea in here, actually. So are there any other descriptors professionally that you would add? Oh man, you're gonna make me talk about myself? Oh, I'm going to forcefully extract it out of you. That is the purpose of the podcast. I mean, I'm definitely a speaker and a moderator. I'm really proud about my moderating abilities because I lead with creating impact for the audience, not about what I can get out of it, but how I can facilitate a conversation where the audience has the most to gain. And then a speaker. I'm actually leading the Podcasters Roundtable at South by Southwest. I did that too. I spoke on the South by Southwest stage this past year at the Next Web coming up in Amsterdam. So that's going to be exciting. I did forget about speaker because you speak a lot. I do speak a lot, which is funny. Man, there's just so much. I'm really passionate about customer experience. I used to have a podcast called Hello Customer. The only reason that podcast doesn't still exist is because the production time was really long, but I love exploring how brands deliver extraordinary customer experience. I don't know. Keep going. I'm currently writing a book, which is really exciting. I'm writing a book about how to create offline experiences for the tech industry. And Tucker Max with Stride is my mentor, and I feel so lucky. And how to create offline experiences for the tech industry? For tech professionals. For tech professionals. Yeah. Are you doing Book in a Box or no?
Yes, but Book in the Box is now called Scribe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Scribe Media. Oh, that's not me, right? Okay.
No, that's me.
And I'm a backpacker. Does that count? Because it's a huge part of my identity.
It is, but that goes down here. I think I have a hashtag for digital nomad.
I have traveled to over 50 countries to celebrate women in tech. And I've done hundreds of interviews everywhere from Bosnia to Albania to various places in Asia and Canada and throughout the US, like trying to get to everywhere to celebrate women in technology on the podcast. I'd say a lot of my work, almost 100% of my work, is community driven to create social impact, but I don't consider myself a social activist.
How do you define the difference?
So I don't know. Somebody in the LA Community said that used the term heart-driven leader. I love that term, heart-driven leader. I think it's a great term. I'm a heart-driven leader, so it's not really.
Didn't you win an award for that? Wasn't it the heart-driven?
Oh, you know what I did? I forgot about that. I did. I think I was honored by the mayor's office or something. I have to look. It's probably in my office somewhere.
I love that you forget that. Heart-Centered Tech, that was the name of the...
Yeah, Heart-Centered Tech, Jude. And so Jude... Whoa!
Sorry.
Yes, that. So Jude uses the term heart-driven leader, and I just think I think that's really falls with me. I'm also one of the original group of people that helped or was a significant part of Los Angeles becoming the top 3rd tech city in the world.
Tell me more about that.
Back in the day, in about 2006, 2007, somewhere around there, it was a bunch of us, like 20, 25 of us, that would all hang out, and we'd hang out at an investor's house and do these barbecues at the investor's house. He's a prolific investor in Los Angeles now, but I'd rather not say who it is. We'd do barbecues there, and we'd all hang out, and all of us just became leaders in the tech space, whether it's in the sense of community or with accelerator groups or venture capital.
So it's like the PayPal mafia, except you're all heart-driven.
Most of us, yeah. And so yeah, I think we created a vibe. And then what ended up happening is Koloff then launched in, I believe, 2010. And so Koloff gave us a home, And so we didn't have a central hub to all congregate together. So we'd go to, this investor's house or hang out wherever we hung out together, right? But to have that consistent home as tech professionals really pushed us forward in this. So Cam Kashani.
I love Cam.
Yeah. I personally feel Cam Kashani and her community work is what established Los Angeles to be a tech city to watch and push it forward, because it wasn't until Koloff, the company she co-founded with her partner at the time, was established, that all the venture capitalists and accelerator groups moved to Santa Monica, aka Silicon Beach. That stuff, there were no places like that. At the time, there was one co-working space called Blank Spaces on Mid-Wilshire, and it had entertainment and tech, but there wasn't like a space championing tech specifically in that way. And Cam would personally tweet everybody, and it was for the hackers, it was for the builders, it had the pizza nights and the beer nights, and kudos to Blank Spaces, because co-working really wasn't a thing back then. And so there are really, really OG LA tech people that all work together at Blank Spaces. Blank Spaces is where I started speaking on panels and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Cam's community work with Koloff is what pushed the tech movement in Los Angeles specifically forward.
It's amazing how you look back and how I mean, OG is really the only way of summarizing it for me. And so back to kind of like making space for people, physical space. And so I've been doing Symposium, which I think I've mentioned to you, and we're still getting our legs. But really it's like, hey, like we have this space, it's every 2 weeks, and like it depends, it's kind of a grab bag because it depends on the people who attend it. But the whole thing is founded on space. Right. If the space didn't exist, then the event wouldn't exist. And in LA, that's hard to find, especially consistently. And I mean, I love the dojo, but it's like kind of just, there's not much there. Like there's not much personality in it.
I am really good. I'm really big on abundance for everyone, and I think the dojo does a lot of good for a lot of people, as do other things. I think everything has pros and cons. Yeah. Including WeAreLATech.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think it's part of its communication, and you have to say this is who we are and this is who we're for, and then you have to be able to acknowledge when that changes and when the people who it's for changes, because obviously people grow and so do organizations. So speaking of which, tell me a little bit more about WeAreLATech Experience Club, and a synopsis, as you so choose to share, of why it closed down and how it reemerged.
So it didn't close down because the podcast has been going since 2014. What WeAreLATech is it's a safe place for Los Angeles tech professionals to collaborate and support one another in a meaningful way and to accelerate forward in business. And what that means is I create content and experiences to facilitate those relationships. And in doing that, and in being such a heart-driven leader, that sometimes I put the community aspect before the financial sustainability. And what I learned the hard way is you can't effectively serve community if you don't build a sustainable foundation. Yep. And so some projects need to pivot and shift or be reevaluated and rebuilt in order to be financially sustainable. So it's not necessarily like shutting down, it's more shifting. So yes, the OG closed as it was, only because I understood it needed to be rebuilt in a way. Like for instance, a lot of people wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, no, we can't have over 150 people, like, because it's going to affect the culture. On top of that, I was running the whole thing myself. So I went to over 400 experiences on my own and produced them on my own. That's not the way to build something that, and I undercharged. So imagine as like
I would like to point out that I did harass you significantly about that.
A lot of members said, and you guys had great reasons, a lot of members said you need to charge more, you need to charge more. But like imagine if the Club OG didn't actually close and it stayed the same, and then I was like, oh, P.S. by the way, tomorrow it's going to be 4 times as much. That would be really jolting, unsettling. It would feel like I'm not being loyal to the members, when really it's just a sustainability issue, right? And so the cleanest way to do it is to say the product as it exists right now, like that one's closing its doors to allow space to rebuild it in a more sustainable way, so we could benefit more people and be a reliable, consistent source of connectivity.
Yeah, and in LA, if you can be consistent, then you are a freaking unicorn.
I mean, listen, WeAreLATech has existed since I believe it's 2012 is when I created the first WeAreLATech video series to spotlight Los Angeles tech companies. In 2014, the WeAreLATech podcast was launched. In 2015, the Experience Club was launched. In between those, we launched a WeAreLATech job board. We launched the WeAreLATech Facebook group exclusively for events and job opportunities. We have the WeAreLATech private chat on Slack. All these things function in a different way, and I'm refining all of them so that they make sense. Right now, there's so many pieces to WeAreLATech. You're like, depending on where you come in, and if you come in via the mobile app, then you think it's a mobile app thing. If you come in via the podcast, it's a podcast. If you come in via the Experience Club, it's like, it's so much. It's very confusing to to think, okay, where does WeAreLATech fit in my life, in the sense of like, what are all the things involved? And some people don't even know that there's more involved. And I found out that most people, I mean, I'm not totally surprised that most people don't even know it's me behind it, because I'm so big on being community driven that I never wanted it to be about my ego. It was about it wasn't about me. And so I just didn't say that it was me. And then a lot of people in the Slack specifically were like, wait, this isn't run by a big organization. I'm like, no, thank you for the compliment. So that's part of the new ethos, is to be more upfront and center, that it's me like doing it. It's like a heart-driven girl without bias that like isn't trying to sell you something, you know, on the back end. Like the business is being meaningful to the community. Like that is what matters to me.
Well, and that's also a big growth thing for you, because we've had a lot of conversations about, I mean, on this call thus far, I've paid you a lot of compliments, and I would say that two and especially 3 years ago, like, granted, the same could be said about me, is that you would have refused them.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And,
that's very true.
And
I still have a hard time.
For me, it's a practice, but it's funny, you know, you see it in other people because you see it in yourself. And I just, you're someone who, when you are present and when you're not present, like people dote in a way that like I feel uncomfortable, because I like granted I feel it too, and I'm just like, no, like we all love her that much, but it kind of seems crazy, because like, you know, you're this girl who has like, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe you. You're like a creator because you create stories and content, but you're also a curator because you curate people. And my live stream is flashing. Okay, there we go. And anyway, so where's your focus and what's your goal?
Yeah, I love it. So what I'm most focused on is processes. I think I did that poorly, creating processes. I'm such an executor, and I feel really passionate about executing, that sometimes like it will be a few years in and I'll have created some massive impact, but then the process is really sloppy. Because at that point it has like kind of like all the things, right? The Slack group, the job board, the Facebook group, blah, blah, blah. It's like, now it's a lot and it's confusing. And so I'm testing things out. I believe in experiments. So I'm testing out something called the Community Pass, which would kind of loop everything together. I'm testing out, how I've rebuilt the Experience Club. I'm testing out, I'm just testing out what makes sense for the community in a sustainable way, so that we can move forward with this together and have it truly continue to create wonderful impact. So yeah, processes is where I'm focusing my attention, and being very clear about the offering and the value, and also putting myself more at the forefront, which is uncomfortable, because I'm really just not egotistically driven. I don't need that fame. Like I think I would hate the life of being a celebrity or YouTube star or something like that.
I ran into Casey Neistat the other day, and I was just like,
in LA?
I think I ran into him. I think he was with his brother, maybe, because I was like, is that Casey Neistat? I'm like, no, that's Casey Neistat.
That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah, and then I was on a random sidebar. I was in a parking lot eating a burger on a Zoom call with my Burning Man camp, and one of the guys in the camp is like a super OG YouTuber with like 10 million followers and knows Casey, and I was like, I'm sitting across from Casey right now, and he's like, I just shot his video yesterday. But that's the internet in terms of how small it is. It's also LA as a whole, and so I think that, I don't know, I'm new to LA, but it seems new in the sense of...
Not anymore. You've been here a few years now.
New by comparison to like you and Kim Kashani and other people who were born and raised here. It feels like it's harder to hide being an asshole.
Interesting.
And I went to a dojo event recently with my label maker, and it's like, I feel like half of the people at the event, I mean, like, you know, there was the quintessential two dudes wearing suits with like cleanly written name tags who walk up, and I'm like, cool, you're about to pitch me your startup. It's like, it's transactional.
Ryan, stop.
Well,
Stop. Love for everybody, please.
Well, I do, but it's like I know, but it's like I want to take like a hammer and like crack through the shell that they think they need to present, and then like get to the root of like who they are. Because because that's who I want to. Actually, so this email that I'm writing right now.
I'm going to show up in a suit next time we hang
Please
out.
do. You will be so uncomfortable. I know you. Play is a production of fun. Entertainment is the consumption of fun. Only through the latter activity is there the possibility of getting to know each other's strengths and limitations, character, and inner resources. Real intimacy comes not from telling about yourself, but from joint creativity, which brings you out of your true qualities, invites you to show that aspect of yourself needed for the task at hand.
You have to send me that because it sounds like that defines the club.
It does, and so that's from Charles Eisenstein's book, The Ascent of Humanity.
Will you send me that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been blowing my mind in so many ways. Highly recommend you listen to it or read it. And so for that, that happened after a live stream. We were talking about events, and the Alex Silkin, the CTO of Servius, we were talking about like how we could do events even though neither of us were like event people, and like we wanted to curate people because we're social people, but we're not event producers. So we're growth hacking it in a sense. And he was like, well, let's do like potluck events, but instead of people bringing a menu item, they bring an experience item. And then
I love it.
The comparison there is Burning Man, which is that like Burning Man isn't really anything except for principles and space.
Yeah.
And so you have common uniting principles, and then you have a common indoctrination process, and then you have space, and everybody brings something to the space. So we were like, can we facilitate the kind of intimacy at a week of Burning Man in a 2-hour bi-weekly event? And that's and then like a day later I got to this part in the book, and I'm like,
That's awesome.
So, and he's talking about VR. We started talking about how like when you put a VR headset on at an event, because he and I have been to a few VR events together.
Right.
You have a 10-minute experience, you hand the headset off to someone else, they have a 10-minute experience, and then you talk about the same experience that you had in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And then the alternative is competitive ones, and those, on the other hand, like you're so busy fighting against each other that you're not together. Right. And there's like a handful that are co-creative. Yeah. And that's why, have you been to 2-Bit Circus yet?
I haven't, but I'm very familiar because Ted Worth, who is amazing. I don't know if you know him. He's big in Burning Man, and he exposed me to 2-Bit Circus years ago. Yeah.
I'm very eager. I've heard really good things about their space. When you go, I would love to go with you if that opportunity presents itself, just because I want to discover the space in the same way that I feel like you will. But yeah, okay, so making space for people physically in the context of an event, right? So you're talking about event design, and the typical networking event in LA is like throw in a name tag, here's a bar, go, right? So there's not
like most people don't know this about me automatically, but I'm very introverted, and oftentimes I'm socially awkward. It doesn't match my public persona because I seem very extroverted by giving a lot of speeches and being surrounded by so many people, but I often feel socially awkward. And so that's the worst feeling when you walk into one of these events that have a few hundred, and let's say they even have a few hundred tech people, but now it's loud, and I'm there, and I'm like, I don't want to bother anyone, and it's just weird. It's just like, and then I have to do this mind hack, and I'm like, all right, Espree, I'm allowed to leave after I talk to 3 people. Like, but it's just, it doesn't feel welcoming and relaxing. It feels intimidating and a little bit claustrophobic. Yeah. And so what I do my best to do is produce experiences that have a lot of breathing room, and you feel very included, and you feel supported, and you're immediately introduced to your environment. So that is, it's like It's like a welcome committee, you know?
I mean, it's like, and there's so many different ways to explain this, but like putting the fish in the tank, like from the store, if anyone's ever had a fish, like you put the bag with the water in it, the fish in it, in the tank to let it like acclimate to the temperature, and then you open the thing, and then. Totally. I mean, you haven't been to Burning Man, have you?
No, okay. It's one of those things that eventually I'll go.
Yeah, when the time is right, it'll happen. Yeah. But so one of the things they do is you pull up to the gate, everybody hands tickets, and then they're like, "Have you been before?" And if you say no, they're like, "Get out of the car!" Like super aggressive too. And they make you lay down and do dust angels because they're like, "This is the last time you're going to be clean for a week," basically. And it's this unifying experience because like the environment is not hospitable in the slightest. So if your unifying experience is coming through the gate and like this, it's
dust angels.
It's silly. It's playful. And there's like fucking 20 rows of cars and everybody's popping out and doing dust angels. You're like,
totally.
Okay, this is where I'm at. And that's kind of where the conversation came from here is like, how do you bring that into a business setting without it forcing it and, like mandatory costumes or whatnot. Have I told you about my birthday party, by the way?
No.
Oh, man.
I mean, is everyone on the podcast invited?
Yeah. So I'll run you through the current version of the website for my birthday party.
So I love that you have a website for your birthday party.
Fuck yeah. On June 29th, we'll be facilitating a citywide immersive experience that's hidden in plain sight. Keen to tune in. What's your name? Espree. How long have you lived in Los Angeles?
I mean, my whole life.
Which is years?
Like 17 years.
Okay. All right. Are there any photos of your feet on a Hollywood star?
Probably not.
Okay. Have you ever put your hands in the concrete outside the Chinese theater?
No.
Have you been to the Wax Museum?
Yes.
Have you window shopped on Rodeo?
Probably.
Have you ridden the Ferris wheel in Santa Monica?
Probably. I don't remember.
Been on a double-decker tour bus?
No.
Okay. So think about that, Espree. You've lived here for 17 years and you've barely done any of the touristy shit that people travel thousands of miles just to experience.
That's great how you use Typeform. I have Typeform, and that is a great use of Typeform right there.
Thank you. So this is the third year. Every year for my birthday, we get dressed up as tourists, create fictional backstories, and do all the touristy shit in the day.
That's so cool. I wish I could be there. I'm going to be in Bali on the 29th.
All right. Well, next year.
That looks so cool. That's a great idea, and I love the way you organize that.
It's there's a story behind it. I'm super stoked that you get to this by tipsy.tours. So that's my birthday party is tipsy.tours, which is like
that's cool.
I don't know how I got that domain. So yeah, but like this is what's interesting is that if you reload this, this came from a process of communicating in person, and so I'd like be talking to a friend and something would pop into my mind of like, I want to invite you to my birthday party. And usually around like things to do in LA. And I'm like, oh, hey, how long have you lived in LA? And they'd give me a number. If it was over a year, they would like puff their chest up and be like, I've been here for 5 years, right? Because everybody has this like point of pride that they've survived.
Yeah.
And then I'd like immediately be like, oh, are there photos of your feet on a Hollywood star? And they're like, no. And then you keep asking these questions that like they'd become more defensive of their like I'm a local stance, and then you get to the end, you're like, cool, well on my birthday we dress up as tourists and do all of that in a day. They're like, oh my god, yes. And they were seeking permission, and so that's where the flow came from. But what happened is I started running ads at this, and because
of course you did.
Because people
using which platform, Facebook or Instagram or Google Ads or
Reddit.
Reddit? How's the cost per click on Reddit?
Depends on what you're doing. I mean, most ads are really shitty. My ads are, I would say, not. So this is actually the byproduct of Allie. So Allie was like, anyone can be an artist, and then a week later, this was my first art.
That's really funny. And I bet that did great on Reddit.
The comments were absolutely hysterical. It had 140,000 views, mostly of people in LA, mostly women. I'm pretty sure I got recognized at one point because I got a really weird look in like a way that I was like, she didn't say anything, so I don't know. But if you play with the platform and if you play with the community, then you get this. But that's a different story. So the reason I bring this up is that I did Reddit ads, and because there wasn't, honestly, it was consent. There wasn't consent to put someone through like an indoctrination process.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we've been discussing about, like, you know, making space for people, creating a construct, having an intention or a purpose of that construct, and then creating a unifying experience within it. And I think you do that through WeAreLATech in a small way, you know, because it's intentionally curated to be small. And one of the questions that I've been asking a lot is, how do you scale it? Because there's so many networking events in LA, and they all suffer from the same problem.
Yeah, so I think I'd like to think that I figured out how to scale it, but before I confidently answer that, I want to put it into action and see that my experiment works. And then once it proves the results to be positive, then I will be like, I have figured out how to scale it.
And it's funny too, because it's not technology. It's you scale space for people, and then the people scale. But like, you know, the LA way, the tech way is like, let's build a software product.
No, it's actually processes. It's processes, and it's processes and strong processes in culture. Culture communication. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. Sorry, our original meeting is calling me. And it's
that happened for me 10 minutes ago.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So instead of that rabbit hole, I'm going to put that aside for a second. So let's say WeAreLATech ethos, which you've given me a lot of. PR stuff I can find because that's all Googleable. You're writing a book. I didn't know that. That's awesome. With Scribe, you said?
Which it was founded by Tucker Max.
Formerly Book in a Box.
Yeah.
And Tucker Max is your advisor?
He's I view him as a mentor, not really an advisor. But I rather not list him.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not into like name dropping.
Well, I am. Yeah, but this is
no, really, it would make me uncomfortable.
All right.
Yeah.
I do give you authority, but the purpose of Mythos is to sing through my lips, not yours. Because the girl who gets it done said from your mouth is kind of like, okay, boastful, but now that I know the story behind that, like, so much better.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's not important. The results are important to me. Like the people that support me along the way.
Well, yeah, the results are important when you're talking about them, but I'm not you, so I can brag.
I prefer not name dropped. Yeah.
Noted. Yeah. I mean, Tucker Max isn't like being friends with Tony Hsieh is far more impressive.
I think it's impressive to have people that have good moral integrity. Like I don't know. I just I find that Tucker and other people like that, they're such brilliant business leaders, and they've learned so much about human psychology and team dynamics and culture and so many things that I want to learn from. And they happen to have names that some people know, and then there's other people who are just as significant in my life that may not have those kind of brand names. And yeah, I guess I just don't value people on their social status.
I know you don't, but it's interesting in the sense that, like, and granted, having the ability to have a bullet point to effectively grab someone's attention. So like one of my advisors, aside from what I read to you earlier of him, like all of his accomplishments, which are super awesome, but I wouldn't break out that phrasing verbally when I'm talking about him, because like that sounds like it's like, why are you selling me on this guy? But the two things that are super notable for him is that he was the CFO of Second Life and General Assembly, and depending on the age of the person, like you're like, oh shit, and then you're like, okay, cool, tell me more, like, because that's that's what 2003 and like 2016, so there's a lot in between, and there's a lot that he's done. But I found that like, bullet point of beginnings, bullet point of recent accomplishment to grab attention, and then convey whatever context is, like that's the baseline context, and then you communicate on top of that. But again, if you offer it yourself, then it like totally stilts the whole conversation of like, why are you telling me this about you so that you can tell me something else? And therein lies, have you ever heard of Harrison assessments?
No.
It's so if Myers-Briggs measures behavior, Harrison assessment measures the beliefs which drive your behavior.
Okay.
And so it's based on paradox theory.
How do you learn? I'm just seeing my next thing, like what time it closes. How do you learn that? Because it would be really valuable. I would love to. That sounds amazing. I've never even heard of it before.
Well, so they have shitty marketing. And the only way that you have the ability to do it is if you do it for like a company, or if you pay someone like $600 and something to do it on you. I might be able to make an intro, but like, so Teddy, who did it to me, he was the executive coach to Walter Robb, the co-CEO of Whole Foods, Bob Hurley of Hurley International, Andy Mooney of Disney.
That's nuts.
For whatever reason, he thought I was entertaining enough to just be like, I want to run this on you. But what was interesting is there's like an XY of communication, and I'm in the lower quadrant of that, which is in the quadrant for avoids communication. And he's like, I find it interesting that you've built technology that compensates for your disinterest in wanting to communicate. And it's true, because like I have always been frustrated by what I want to convey and how much context I feel I need to convey it authentically, and how limited I am by needing to say it myself.
Right.
It's interesting. Because you get stories to tell, but then it's like who's telling the story, and the context changes everything. Okay, so WeAreLATech book. Everything lives under the WeAreLATech umbrella. Do you have any advice? I mean, you said you're speaking, which
womenintech.fm.
Okay.
And then EspreeDevora.com, and I like utilizing my LinkedIn most of the time.
Yeah, I have that linked here. I love having a giant screen. I've had a small screen for so many years. I've totally forgotten how lovely it is to have a giant screen. I've been going through this, and you're good. Unlike other people, hint hint, wink wink to everybody, you're good at updating. Cool. Oh man, I missed a lot of this. All right.
I sent you a little chat message, by the way.
Oh, thank you for telling me, because I would have missed it. Gotcha. Cool. I will do this, and I will send it to you for some review on doing it. And I guess the last question to ask you, is there anyone, I mean, I feel like the answer is no, because actually I know the answer is no. As I was going to say, is there anyone that you want to talk to? But basically, let me hypothesize. The answer is no, because everybody wants to talk to you. And the WeAreLATech community is not ready for my onslaught of promotion yet. So I will work on this storytelling and hope to see you at a non-stale unnetworking event in the near future. Something like that?
Yeah.
Unnetworking. Where are you living now? Are you still in Santa Monica?
Yep.
Okay. Hot damn. As of this morning, it seems like WeWork might be sponsoring Symposium.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I think, they just need people in their space. I kind of feel like, was it the networking group that's like sponsored by Google that's been around forever?
Oh, the Silicon Beach professionals?
Yeah. I'm like, I've never seen Google there, so I've always been like, anyways. Much things to do later. I have no way to end this in a way that is representative of the amazing energy that was shared within. So I will just do.
Sometimes things don't need a proper ending.
We'll end with that bit of very lovely wisdom.
Thank you so much for the continuous opportunity throughout the years, and I'm excited for this. This is it's really cool to take action and create and utilize technology to be an artist, and this is our form of expression. So.
And play.
Yeah. And play.
All right. Ending. Dude.